officially college football playoff game week. We talked with Ryan Day, Will Howard, Donovan Jackson, and Travion Henderson, and offensive coordinator Chip Kelly as the Buckeyes prepare to host the Tennessee Volunteers on Saturday, December 21st. I'm Stephen Means. That's Andrew Gillis, and that's Stefan Krajisnik. There was a lot said. A lot of different things, because this is the first time we've spoken to anybody on the offense not named Ryan Day or Will Howard in almost a month. Well, not a month, like 3 or 4 weeks. Just before the Michigan game. I don't know, Stefan, what did you take? What's just the most important thing you heard from somebody on Monday? Excuse me.
Well, we got a glimpse of this when we talked to Ryan Day after the bracket reveal for the playoff, and we got more confirmation of that, talking to Chip Kelly, of just this offensive staff is not shying away from the fact that it was a bad game plan against Michigan. They are not trying to sugarcoat it and saying, "Oh, we just got to execute better," or it was a good game plan. They've come out and said, should have gotten the ball out to the perimeter more, ran it too much on the interior. That's step one of something changing, right, is being able to acknowledge where you went wrong. And for a guy like Chip Kelly to come out and say, he's someone who likes to establish a run, but to turn around and say, yeah, sometimes you don't need to do that or try as much to do that. And against Michigan, he seemed hell-bent on establishing the run to come out, before the next game and say, yeah, you probably don't need to do that against a team like that, which I think Tennessee resembles in some ways. They resemble, the Penn States and the Michigans that Ohio State has faced this year. This is the first step. I was telling you guys right before we started recording, I want to see it before I believe it, right? Saying it on a Monday is a lot different than calling the game that way on a Saturday when the whole world is watching on ESPN and ABC. But this is a step in the right direction. It gives me some confidence that when the game starts on Saturday, we will see a more aggressive offensive approach. I did like one thing that Chip Kelly said. It's not as simple as just dropping back and throwing it to these receivers, because teams do double Jeremiah Smith. Teams will put 2 high safeties on you. You have to be creative in getting these guys the ball. But that is what you have to do. That is a step of saying, we got to get the ball to Jeremiah Smith. It might not be a traditional drop back, but we are going to get the ball to Jeremiah Smith. That gives me confidence going into Saturday.
Is that your takeaway, Andrew? They're going to throw the ball, but it doesn't mean 7-step drop, 3-step drop, curl route. It means everything they put into the run game against Michigan, they're almost going to flip that and put that into the pass game against Tennessee.
Yeah, I think you also have to put the offensive line into that conversation. Ryan Day talked about Luke Montgomery maybe rotating in at guard. So I think what they're doing is they're recognizing 2 things. Number one, I think they're recognizing the Michigan game plan was not good enough. The Michigan game plan should have been different. The Michigan game plan needed to be adjusted. And they're also recognizing that the offensive line was not good enough, even though that the game plan that they called was not good enough. So I think 2 things can be true there. I think you can look at the game plan and say they absolutely should have thrown the ball more. I think you could look at the offensive line and say they absolutely should have been better up front. And I think when you pair those things together, I think what they're doing now that they have a couple of weeks, they talked about this, I think moving the pocket is going to be important this week, kind of moving Will Howard around, showing Tennessee looks where you're getting the ball out in space, like Stefan said, to Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Egbuka, because if Tennessee can just say, hey, we're going to double Jeremiah every play, we're going to double Emeka every play, that's one thing, and you've got to figure out ways to manufacture touches for those guys. So I think that is the big takeaway from today, is that Ohio State's coaches, when they looked at the game plan, they went, this was not good enough. We need to be better. And I think they're looking at saying we need to be better, and I think they're also looking at the offensive line and saying we need to be better on the offensive line, because you're not making changes at this point of the season. You're not rotating your guards at this point of the season if you thought everything was okay and it was simply a game plan issue. So there's going to be some moving parts, I think, on offense when Ohio State plays Tennessee on Saturday. I'm really interested to see what it looks like. I'm really interested to see how they get the ball in space to their playmakers, because we could talk about Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Egbuka and Carnell Tate and all these great guys at receiver that they have, but don't you also want to get Travion Henderson out in space, right? I would want to get the ball in Travion Henderson out in space. I'm not saying you hand it to him. Maybe a swing pass. Maybe something where you're getting the ball to him where he can use his speed. So Stephen disagrees, but I'm throwing Travion Henderson in that mix. I'm not saying you have to turn and give him the ball up the middle. I'm saying maybe move him around. Maybe get the ball out to him where it's a swing pass, where it's a toss play, where he's not running into a teeth of a defense. I'm doing things where you can get the ball to your playmakers. That did not happen against Michigan, where it felt like it was dive, dive, dive all over again.
I think my outrageous prediction is going to be Ohio State runs for 300 yards in this game.
And they lose by 2 touchdowns.
If they run for 300 yards and lose by 2 touchdowns, there's a whole other thing going on that we're going to have a conversation about.
36.5. That's the over-under how many passes that Will Howard throws on Saturday. And they're not all going to be down the field. Some of them are going to be horizontal. Some of them are going to be vertical. We're talking deep shots. We're talking intermediate. We're talking short. Sure. When you started talking about running backs again, I was getting ready to cut off this video. Fine. Yeah. I'm for that because they threw it. Travis Henderson a screen pass against Michigan, and it did work. And then it was like, how come you didn't do that for the rest of the game here? Here's what I think has happened this year. And the thing that stood out to me the most from Ryan Day and Chip Kelly, because they both kept bringing it up, this idea of we are a very different offense than we were in August. And typically when coaches say that, it's like, oh, we're just better than we were because we improved. No. They look different, right? There is a world that exists where if Josh Simmons and Seth McLaughlin are still healthy and your starting offensive line is Josh Simmons, Donovan Jackson, Seth McLaughlin, Tegra Shabola, Josh Fryer, or maybe Luke Montgomery still coming along, or Sincere Veltzer, they're your right guard, there is a world that exists where we come in here and go, man, they're going to be able to run the ball. They've got 2 of the best running backs in the country. They have a Joe Moore Award level offensive line, which is what they had when you have the Remington Award winner and a potential first-round draft pick and another 5-star who's probably a day 2 pick. That is a Joe Moore Award winning offensive line. It fell apart against Oregon, then it fell apart again going into the Indiana game, and then it fell apart again coming out of the Indiana game. It just kept falling apart. So you don't have that anymore, so you have to change your approach. I was happy to hear them say that because they had been approaching things for a month. You mentioned it a couple times. They had been approaching things like they still had that fully healthy offensive line, and they shouldn't have been. Get the ball outside. Throw that thing down the field and to the right and to the left. And bring it back now, guys, and then do it again, and just keep throwing that ball because it's you using the strength of your team, which is what Ryan Day said, maximizing our strengths while minimizing our deficiencies. Your strength is on the perimeter. Tennessee's defensive weakness is on their perimeter, not on the defensive line. So don't attack the defensive line. Go ahead, Stefan.
I was just going to say, I mean, there's a bit of an irony in all this. The way we talk about, the offensive game plan needed to change is Seth McLaughlin has done great things this year selling his run the damn ball hats. The moment he went down, that phrase kind of went with him. I mean, you're down 2 starters on the offensive line. Like you said, Remington Award, first-round pick at left tackle. Things started to change. Throw the damn ball.
So if there's a receiver out there watching this on Ohio State, maybe get your NIL collective and start selling throw the damn ball hats.
Hey, I'm in.
We claimed the idea first.
That's true. That's true. No, that's true.
I mean, we need their prowess, and then I think we'll be okay. We need
throw the damn ball. Throw the damn ball. Buckeye talk.
Okay, we got to wrap this up here. So to the one thing I want to say last year, because we're running long on this thing. You guys are, it seems like, I'll believe it when I see it mode. And I get it. I think I'm kind of there too. But I have seen this messaging, and I have seen it applied before. 2 years ago against Georgia, Ryan Day was talking like that. Then they came out and did exactly what he said they were going to do. So I do have a little bit more faith in it versus if he were saying this ahead of the Michigan game or a regular season top 10 matchup, I would be with you. I was like, okay, dude, we'll see. But I've seen this before against Georgia, where if they were a little bit healthier, they would have won that game. Well, they're not missing offensive weapons. They're missing offensive linemen this time around. So I do think there may be a little bit more position to, in some of those situations where you went, man, we could have really used Marvin. Man, you could have really used Jackson. Well, you're going to have Marvin and Jackson. And Marvin, you're going to have a Jeremiah Smith. You're going to have a Mecca Buka. You have not said Carnell Tate's name yet. I'm throwing him in there as well. It's just the weapons are there. So use them. And it sounds like that's what they're planning to do. Get the text 614-350-3315. Andrew, Stephen, Stefan, 2-week free trial, $3.99 after that. And go listen to Buckeye Talk wherever you find podcasts. OSU, Tennessee on Saturday in Ohio Stadium. See ya.